Actually, it was a rigorous process. I had to go to Atlanta several times. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, still. So, I had to. Once I got submitted for it, my agent Terrence Hurd at the Hurd Agency, he called me and said, I'm submitting you to play Suge Knight in this new Tupac film they're about to do, and I'm like, I was excited. A, it was like a Tupac film, finally, and then B, it was like Suge Knight. Never even thought of that, and I hadn't. I never thought of myself as playing Suge Knight ever, and so it would kind of open my mind, like hey, I think I really could do that. I feel like I'm a good enough actor, and then I had the attributes and whatnot. I had to put on a few more pounds, and boom, we're there. And so I went down. They wanted to see me like 2 days from the after we sent the submission. Did a taped one first, which how they wanted it sent. I think Vimeo. They wanted to upload it to a private account on Vimeo, and took 2 hours to load. And so my audition was actually like 3 hours late getting in, and then finally, my buddy that was helping me film it, we were just like, forget it. Let's upload it on YouTube. They're just gonna have to take it like that. So we uploaded to YouTube, sent them the link, and they got it, and they actually called for a callback, and so which I had to actually be in Atlanta, and so the callback was like the next day after they sent the info for the callback, and so I hopped. The next morning I went to hop. I booked a flight the night before. The next morning, went to the airport about 5 in the morning. Had a first flight delayed. Then there was some issue with the bathroom or something on the plane, so they wouldn't take it off. And then they had a backup plane coming, but it was late also, stuck in Charlotte. So then there was a mechanical issue. And the whole time, I'm going back and forth, letting my agent know what's going on, and he's calling casting, and everybody's just like, back and forth, back and forth. They're like, where is he? He's telling them, he's hit me, like, where are you? I'm like, I'm still in the airport. I'm sick, and, I'm getting a fever at this point. Finally, a plane comes. I take the plane. I take it to Charlotte. And then, I call him. I'm like, hey, I know I'm late. When I hit Charlotte, that's the time I was supposed to be in Atlanta at my meeting. And I was just getting to Charlotte to connect. And I hit my agent. I was like, hey, find out if they're still going to see me. If not, then, I'm sick. I'm just going to take the flight back to Wilmington if they're not going to see me. I don't want to go all the way there for nothing. And he couldn't get him on the phone at that point, so I had to make a choice. I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to take the plane to Atlanta and hope for the best. Took the plane to Atlanta, caught an Uber, got down to WSA casting office, and got there. And the guy, I walk in, and I got like 102-degree fever. I feel like crap. I'm mad because it's like 6 in the evening. I was supposed to be there like at 1, and so I walk in, and they're actually trying to wrap up, and I walk in, and there's a girl there and a guy there at the front desk. And I'm like, I'm here. Obviously, no other actors or anybody else is there. So I walk in, I'm like, I'm here to read for the part of Suge Knight. And they were like, yeah, everybody's left. Like, they're gone. Like, we wrapped up hours ago. And, I told him, I said, look, you're going to tape me, hear me, or something. But somebody's going to see me today. he said, okay, I think we can tape you. So he was like, let me just go get it set up. So he ran back to go set the camera and stuff up, and I changed. I had on like a red and black flannel shirt that I had bought, and some black jeans and whatnot. And so, I changed and came and waited, and he was like, hey, we're ready for you. It was about 20 minutes later, and as I was walking back, he was like, Winsome and her casting partner, he's like, they actually were still here. They hadn't left their premises yet. When I told them you were here, they wanted to come back in and watch yours. So then it ended up being, instead of just taping, Winsome actually was there on site, but the director had already left. And so I went there, did my spiel. It looked like Winsome liked what I did. Of course, casting directors don't let on too much. And so it seemed like she liked what I did, though. And then I left and went and got a hotel, flew out the next day. And then I got a call that the director wants to see me face to face, and I was like, yeah, I was like, he does. Okay, that's a good sign, but what does that mean? Like, well, he's back he's just flew in and he's back in the office today. He wants to see you tomorrow at 1. So that meant, so I hopped, flight again, back to Atlanta. Met with, then the director was Carl Franklin. So then I met with Carl Franklin, and he seemed to really like me. LT Hutton was there, Winsome, a bunch of other people, producers. So they seemed to like what I did, and we spent a good amount of time there. Then I left again, and then they called me back and said, about 2.5 weeks went by, and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't get it. And then finally they called me and was like, there's been a change. Benny Boom is actually coming in to direct now, and Benny needs to see you face to face. I was like, initially I told him no. I said, I've been there several times. I spent a lot of money already going there. You guys got me on tape 3 different times. The casting director seen me. You should be able to make a decision based off of that. And they were like, he has to see you. I was like, no. My agent was like, please, Dominic, just go. And I was like, no, because we're actually in the opening of, we have 3 companies here. And our third company, we're in the middle of, prepping to open it, for opening day. And so it was just too much going on, and I couldn't just up and leave. And somebody from the casting office called me and said, look, it's down between you and one other person, but you got the better chance. You need to come. So then I was like, okay, it's just down to me. See, I'm a competitor. So I was like, it's just down to me and one other person. I said, oh, let me go and get my job real quick. So I flew down there again. Or no, actually, I think I rented a car and drove down that time. So to make sure there were no complications at airports or nothing. So drove down the night before I got there, showed up fresh the next day, went in, met Benny Boom, sat with those guys. Winsome was already happy I was there again. Smashed it again. And then they were like, hey, you know what? Go. And at this point, Demetrius was in town. And so they went and they sent for Demetrius to the hotel. And they were like, go get Demetrius, bring him back. We want to see them 2 read together. We want to see Pac and Suge together and see how their chemistry is. So they went and got him from the hotel. I don't know what he was doing, but I can imagine he probably was annoyed, like, really? And he got there, and me and him, we hit it off right out the gate, so that was a good sign. And they sat us with Angela Gibbs, who's a renowned acting coach who worked with him from beginning all the way through the film. She's been there the whole time to make sure, he delivers, help him deliver. And but they sat us with her, and so she worked with some exercises with us, and we started working on our bonding real quick. And then we went over lines that they wanted us to read, and then we went back in. This is several hours later. We went back in front of everybody again, and we just started doing our scene. And they were like, everybody was like, whoa, like wow. Started pulling out their phones and filming it, and they're all smiling ear to ear. And so we got done, and we walked out. Me and Demetrius walked out of the room, and we got into the hallway, and like I said, that was our first time meeting. And so when we walked out of there, and we shook hands and whatnot, and I was like, hey man, it's good meeting. He looked at me, he was like, man, you got this. So and I know he wasn't the casting director, but I was like, that's a good sign, when you got the lead on your side. So I was hoping that they, from what I felt inside that room and what he saw and what he said when we got out, that's what would hold true, and it did.
Now, outside of the preparations that a normal actor would do, did you do anything special to prepare for such a big role? I mean, Suge Knight has been, or a Suge Knight character has been in multiple other films, but never has there been as much screen time for the Suge Knight character. So being that you play such a large role in this film, what did you do to prepare yourself for this?
Actually, I slept on the floor for 30 days and ate nothing but potatoes.
Awesome.
No, I'm kidding. No, really, I did do something. I did things way different than I normally would. This is kind of the coup de grace, so to speak, for actors, playing somebody that is living or was alive, playing an actual person. When you play a fictional character, people only know what you show them about that character. You're the first time that they see it, so there's nothing to really judge. All they can say is either you're a good actor or you're terrible.
No comparison.
Right, there's no comparison. When you're playing somebody that's living or has lived, and people have already seen them, they know what they sound like, they've seen them walk, talk, things play out in their lives. They know about these people already. So you're already going into, people are already sitting, waiting to judge you, your performance. Did you embody that character? When they watch you, do they forget they're watching you and feel like they're looking at Suge Knight? Or do they feel that they're looking at some guy that's trying to be Suge Knight? And so that's what you have to be careful of. Plus, it also shows it's one of the most challenging things you can do as an actor is play somebody that's alive in public, in public where people have already seen them. Because they're going to say nobody's good enough. You know what I mean? And then you have to take all that, go in, and change everybody's mind. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time. I was already familiar with Suge Knight. When I was growing up on the West Coast, it was during the time of the whole death row era was in its prime. Pac was alive, and they were just death row was going insane with dropping platinum albums and all that. And so, I was already familiar with death row, Suge Knight, Pac, all those guys. And but what I did was just start digging up old interviews, and just staring at Suge's face, staring at his mannerisms, how he moved, his interactions with people, listening to how he sounded, listening to what he would say, listening to his vernacular, listening to certain words he would say. Like some people might say, "I'm fixing to go to the store." He would say, "Finna." So like, I'm finna go to the store. Little simple things like that some people might not even care about or notice, but some people will notice and appreciate that you went to that extent. And then eating like a madman, eating pizza and ice cream every night to make sure to keep, have a little more size. I wasn't skinny, but I wanted to have a little more size and really kind of match Suge as much as possible. And shaving my hair. I've never been bald in my life. I was born with hair. So shaving my hair for the first time, I seen a complete different me than I've ever seen in my life. And so I had to get used to that. Fortunately, when I shaved it, I like trying new things anyway. So when I shaved it, I was like, oh, not that bad. Because usually I have curly hair. So seeing myself bald with a beard, and then it was like, oh, I see Suge now. I was like, now I see it.
So after the complete embodiment of a character and undertaking the stress of trying to mimic somebody who is currently living, what do the fans say, or what do the audiences that are keeping track of the production say? Are there believers? Are there non-believers? Do you have fans that are ready and willing to go see this All Eyes on Me Tupac movie, or is it more so, are you hearing any negativity at all?
Oh yeah, I mean it's both. It's entertainment. You're always going to hear positive and negative. It's funny because the first picture of me and Demetrius together was a picture where we were filming. It was like 3 a.m. We were tired. We were actually getting ready to leave set. We were finished working, and somebody was like, "Hey, let me snap a picture with you guys real quick." So, it wasn't the best picture, but it was the first picture to come out. And so, that one really, people gave us hell about that one because we're not even really trying to look like Tupac or Suge Knight. We're just taking a picture. And the angle wasn't the best angle, but, it was a nice picture. But when you want to look and see the characters for the first time, probably wasn't the best picture for that. But, people, they came out with at first, that was the first picture people got to see of us together. And so people were kind of, like, he doesn't look like this, and he doesn't look like Pac, and this. And if you see Demetrius in person, there's no way. When I seen him, the first time I seen him, when I was doing the last audition, before he left and went back to the hotel, when I got there, he was walking out. And I seen him, and I said, oh, that must be Pac. He's got to be playing Tupac. And but because he looks that much like him. So for people to say that in the media, it just makes me laugh. But there were also a lot of people who were saying like, "Oh my God, that's Tupac's twin. He's got to be related or something." And then there was this picture that came out with from that same night of Demetrius and I sitting down, and it was like a side picture of him, and I'm like right here, you catch me, I'm looking forward, and now that picture, with that, if there wasn't a Tupac movie being filmed, people, and you put that picture out, people would have said, no, he's alive, here he is, right, that's him. So he looked so much like him in that picture, and then me and the whole setting, people really were like coming with the positive, like, oh my God, this is gonna be so good, et cetera, et cetera. And so yeah, I mean, you've had people, saying, oh, I don't look like Suge, and then you've had people saying, oh, I look just like him, or it's the best version of Suge that we've seen, the closest version we've seen. I mean, anytime you're dealing with a film, especially with people that's alive, unless they have an identical twin, that's what people have to remember. Unless that person has an identical twin, you're never going to find somebody that's exactly like, I think I saw somebody said, everything for me fit for the Suge character, but my lips weren't big enough. And it was like, what? Stupid stuff like that. And it's like, come on, guys. But then you talk about they forget the whole other side of it. Is not only do you have to find somebody that looks as close to these guys as possible, but then you also have to find somebody that has that look down and body frame and everything down, but then can also act and also really embody those people and give a good performance, while also it's not just about looking like those guys, but also being decent enough actors to really bring forth a chilling performance, or a performance that makes you forget you're not actually looking at Tupac and Suge and some of the others, and so, that's what they did get. Casting did an excellent job with everyone they casted. Even people down with one lines came in like they were starring in the movie. So everybody's so passionate, even the extras. The extras are so gung-ho and passionate about making sure that Tupac's movie is the best, that everybody was on their point 110%. And so I think that's what's going to make the movie so great.
Let's talk about the accuracy. Now, we all know films, and we all know biopics, and they will embellish, or they will make some changes in order to make the storyline just that more, or make the storyline have that much more of a cinematic effect. Can you tell us, without describing the film too much, the accuracy? Is it there? Who did they consult? Who's been a part of the production to make it more real? Even as far as Suge Knight, what does Suge Knight think of you? I mean, has he even heard that you were playing him, and what does he think?
I myself haven't had a chance to speak to Suge Knight. I hope to meet Suge one day, regardless of what anybody says or think. I still would like to meet Suge. I hope that I do him a service and a justice in portraying him, and I hope that when he watches it, he can say, at least, even if he just says a little bit, he's got me a little bit. Even if he says that, that'll be a huge compliment to me. I do know that he knows of it. He knows who's playing him, and who's doing what. He's still in contact every so often, from my understanding, with one of the producers, who LT started out with Death Row. His career, he's gone on to do many other things, but he was there during these times that you're watching. LT was there. Not only LT, but shout out to S-Mag, Eastwood, the Outlaws, Noble, Edie, Daz Dillinger, Pops. Is actually, that's what people don't understand about this movie. When people are out there, oh, it's not going to be accurate, or it's going to be this, or going to be that. But there are people out there, even people that's not doing anything as far as, being in the movie or anything else, but just being there for accuracy. Consultant. S-Mac was a consultant for pretty much the accuracy. Because he was somebody that was there from beginning all the way through, up until now, to sit back, and he really would. Like when we were filming one particular scene, and Suge has a tattoo here on his forearm. And S-Mac was on it so heavy, you're like, hey, he's supposed to have a tattoo on his forearm. He ain't got no sleeves on his shirt. Because most of the movie, I wear like suits or long sleeve shirts. And this particular sweater, it was a short sleeve. I didn't even think of it. And he was like, hey, he needs a tattoo on his forearm. And so just those little things like that, and then LT Hutton, who's the producer who brought this whole thing to fruition. He's been fighting. I mean, we've seen some regime changes as far as directors, anything else, and I don't know all the stories behind every change. What I do know is that LT has been huge from beginning, and he will fight tooth and nail to give you a real story. There's no embellishment. There's some people who wanted to change some things or embellish some things, and they just didn't agree with that. Fortunately, these guys led lives that most people only see in a movie. So you didn't have to embellish anything about Death Row or anything about Tupac, or you could really just keep it real, and it's still going to be entertaining. But at the same time, this was really somebody's lives, you know. So as far as accuracy, they fought to keep it as real and as accurate from insiders' point of views, not just what people have heard in the media or whatever. You'll see some things that, of course, we all saw in the media during these times, but what we don't know is what was going on behind the scenes, what the people that were actually there witnessed and saw, and what led into what, and what things connect, so that, we just saw pieces in the media. What we didn't see is what you'll get to see some of in this movie is all the stuff we didn't see. You know what I mean? And the accuracy of it, even the details of the death row office. And I mean, it doesn't matter what the set was, the art department was so insane with this. Anything that existed, and if it's still standing, you could go on the set and see it and then go to the real place and not know the difference, because that's how insane they were about every little detail. This has been a very detailed film. Every little detail. Benny Boom, every little he's a perfectionist. I mean, from fix his collar. One time I had a shirt, it was a white shirt under, the sweater I was wearing. It was like, they came over and it was like, Benny wants us to fix this little piece of collar right here. Like, really? Like, God, who's got an eye that catches stuff like that, with all these moving parts. And so everything's been about, they didn't want to make a live for entertainment. LT's been real huge on, and that's where you've seen some people leave the project early on before we started filming, and some people will be brought on because he's been dead set on this has to be real and accurate and be what the real story was, not an embellished Hollywood version for money or whatever, but the real story. No hate involved, no nothing. There's stuff you see in the movie that ain't nobody getting no breaks. It ain't no, we don't want to make so-and-so look bad, so we're going to leave out this other negative side. No. You see, and just like with Suge's character, you will see, yes, Suge did some crazy stuff. He might have been extreme in some of the things he did, but it wasn't like this wild animal like they try to portray him. Everything he did was for a reason, and usually for good reason. He would just handle it a little more extreme than the average person would. But then there's also the joking around, playful, the brethren side that you don't ever see in films or in the media, and this personality of Suge that you do get to see in our film. You see both sides. You see sides of everybody. We know the story of, Tupac's mom and her battle with, drugs, but that was only a blip of her life. What people don't know more about is the revolutionary she was, the fighter she was, what she did, fighting during the time of civil rights and whatnot, and what her family went through because she was a fighter. These are things you don't know. You don't know that there's other family members. His aunt that was, a big entity in the Black Panthers, and others. There's a lot people don't know, that this movie is not giving you falsehoods, but shedding light on, hey, there's more to Tupac Shakur than just what you know. Music is a piece of who Tupac Shakur was, not everything he was.
So we know that the accuracy is there. The producers and directors and everyone involved has done their due diligence as far as making sure that what you see is as close to a realism as can be without having the real people there. Mm-hmm. So without describing too much of the film, mm-hmm. Which I know you're not allowed to do,
right?
Was there a memorable scene in the movie that just stuck out to you that you filmed, where there was a moment that you found yourself in awe of, either yourself or Demetrius, whoever played Tupac, what are there any scenes that just stand out to you?
Really, there's so many. Um, like I said, being a longtime fan of Tupac and seeing Death Row unfold uh, in actual real life, and then being there on set, playing out some of these things that were happening, gives you chills alone. You know what I mean? But then to see somebody like Demetrius playing his role so accurate and so on point that you almost like you have to differentiate. Like that's you have to tell yourself that's not Tupac, not the real Tupac. You know what I mean? Because you start being like that's Tupac, and so he did so many good scenes. There were scenes that were more about me, that I did that really were just like, whew, and others. So it's really hard to pinpoint. I'll say one of my favorites that we did that people already know about because of social media and whatever was the House of Blues scene we shot. That right there, you talking about getting chills for 8 hours straight. That right there, I'm not going to go too much into it, but just even being there as a fan and seeing, I'll say it like this: I feel like I got to see Tupac Shakur perform live for real. You know what I mean? Like that's how good it was. It was like I felt like I got to see it. It was like I told them when we got done filming that day, I said, "Scratch see Tupac live in concert off my bucket list," because that's what it felt like. And I know when the audience watches it, they're gonna get that same sense. People will probably get chills. Some people will probably even shed a tear. Seeing that if you saw if you're back in the time and saw when everything happened with Tupac, those people would probably watch that in awe, just like we did. And I mean, even the extras, there were like 700 extras there, and even them, it's like you'll get a gist of it watching it in theaters, but it's kind of one of those moments like you just had to be there that day to get the full effect of what was going on and how it played out. And the audience, when you see the audience is not they're so hyped about it. Like you hear them singing the lyrics and you see them hype and you see girls really reaching for Tupac. They're not being told by directors and producers to, hey, reach for Tupac and do this and cry. There's people crying, okay? Like that's how serious this is. This is not me being not exaggerating. Like this is real stuff that happened, and that nobody told these people to do this, but it was so real for everybody, and it was so accurate that you had people reaching up trying to grab Tupac's leg. You had people in the audience crying, watching this. Not sad crying, but like you see at a concert when people see their star that they're so in love with and they're screaming and crying and stuff like that. That blew my mind. You know what I mean? And for me, like, and when you see us, there's like a VIP built up in the scene, and we're in the VIP. And when you notice it, you'll notice around, because if people don't know already, Death Row was synonymous with having a lot of blood gang members around at all times. You know what I mean? So they were very much present in anything having to do with Death Row. And if you see in the scene around my VIP, you'll see a lot of red. And those aren't people put there by the directors. Those aren't outfits that were given to these guys. They were really like blood gang members coming out there to be extras on set, and they were around the VIP like they were part of Death Row, like for real. And like when I'm stepping down when I'm coming down the stairs of the little VIP or whatnot, I mean we got a guy telling people like nah, you can't be up here. He's not paid to be there and do none of that. He just started doing it. He's like, Suge, I got you, Suge. You know what I mean? And other people out there, like all around like probably about 3 layers of people. It's like you see all red. It's all bloods. And like anything you need, Suge, I got you. Anything you got any issue? Hey, y'all move out the way, Suge coming. And there are people like, I'm like, we're having to tell them like, I'm not really Suge Knight. It's okay. We're doing a film. But everybody was so engrossed in the moment that it was real.
Well, hopefully, whenever Suge gets a chance to actually see the film, hopefully not only will he be impressed by your performance, that you did him justice, but hopefully he and everyone else that was involved in Tupac's life will be thankful to see that people even nowadays, currently, still have that respect for these icons such as
Yeah.
Suge Knight and Tupac and
Exactly.
any of the Death Row family that were involved, to still have this kind of love and appreciation for Tupac and what he did for the community. Dominic L Santana, we would like to thank you for coming out. I appreciate your
Most
time.
definitely.
And is there anything else you'd like to tell the fans or the audience for the new and upcoming film, All Eyes on Me?
Yeah, I got a few shout outs actually. I want to give a shout out to the cast and crew of All Eyes on Me. Everybody in the cast, of course, Demetrius playing Tupac, Eastwood playing Trayvon, Sean Baker playing Buntry, the Outlaws, Pops, just everybody involved. Thank you, Morgan Creek, for believing in it and taking that chance. David Robinson, and all those guys over there. Everybody in crew, all the extras that came out, because I swear we probably had, out of the whole production, and we're still not even done, we probably had about at least over a little over 2,000 extras between concert scenes and party scenes and club scenes. We had a lot of extras, and when I tell you they came out and they delivered like they were getting paid thousands of dollars a day, they delivered, and you could feel that. And a lot of them said, I came, here's the thing that blew my mind out of so many extras. The common theme that I kept hearing was not I came out here for money or I came out here to be around stars. The extras, I heard a lot of them saying the same thing. I came out here because I'm a fan of Tupac and I had to be a part of this movie somehow, some way. That's what I heard a lot of. I heard a lot of that from the crew, for the love of Tupac. Black, white, Spanish, Asian, Italian, it didn't matter what ethnicity, something. I mean, people in their 50s that you wouldn't even think, a late 50s white guy, you don't expect to, you're like, oh, Tupac, but even it surprised you how many people know who Tupac is and know his music. And everybody had that love. This was a movie made with love, not just people out there just laboring for the money, but a labor of love. That's what blew my mind, and I know it's going to be something that's special that lasts with me forever because of it and will resonate with the fans. Thank you to all of the fans of Tupac Shakur that are supporting this movie, even though we're still filming it. People from Africa, Poland, UK, Australia, Russia, China, we see you. Thank you for all the messages you send to me and others. And thank you for your continued support. And when the movie comes out, make sure you make it the biggest movie of the decade. Everybody go see it 10 times. 10 times for Tupac. Okay?
How can your fans get in touch with you, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter?
You can follow me on Instagram at official Dom, D-O-M, Santana. Official Dom Santana on Instagram. Dominic Santana on Twitter, capital D, capital S, all one word. And then, of course, Dominic L Santana on Facebook.